No such testimony is binding upon you, and you may disregard the testimony either in whole or in part. It is for you to consider the testimony with the other circumstances in the case, and using your best judgment, determine whether you will give any weight to it, and if so, what weight you will give to it. The testimony is entitled to such weight as you find the expert's qualifications in his or her field entitle it to receive, and it must be considered by you, but is not controlling upon your judgment. You are also to consider his or her general credibility in accordance with the instruction on credibility applicable to all witnesses. In this case, evidence in the form of stipulations between the parties was introduced to show certain facts. The stipulation is an agreement between the parties concerning some fact or facts which you as the jury are bound to accept as fact during your deliberations. This evidence included the designation and identification of physical evidence submitted to the state forensic laboratory. The stipulations are to be used only for the specific purposes for which they were entered into and not to be used for any other purpose. The stipulations do not include credibility or the weight you may give to the exhibits. You will have the stipulations with you during your deliberations. The state has the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is the perpetrator of the alleged acts. In other words, the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt the identity of the defendant. Now, concerning witnesses testifying under immunity, you have heard the testimony of Pavel Gumieni. He testified under a grant of immunity. Although the state is permitted to present the testimony of someone who has been granted immunity, you must examine the testimony of such a witness who provides evidence against the defendant with greater care and caution than the testimony of an ordinary witness. While examining the testimony of a witness who has been granted immunity, you should keep in mind that he may have been looking for some favorable treatment when he agreed to speak with police and subsequently testify in exchange for immunity. Therefore, he may have such an interest in the outcome of this case that he may have an incentive to testify favorably for the state. You may consider whether his testimony was colored by his immunity, his agreement. Look at it with particular care. Look at his testimony with care and scrutinize it very carefully before you accept it. In considering the testimony of such a witness, you may consider whether there was any motive developed in the evidence for providing information inculpating the accused. The factors that you may consider, among others, when evaluating the credibility of such a witness include the extent to which the witness's testimony is confirmed by other evidence, the specificity of the testimony, the extent to which the testimony contained details known only by the perpetrator of the alleged offense, the extent to which the details of the testimony could be obtained from other sources, the circumstances under which the witness initially provided information supporting such testimony to law enforcement, and whether the witness has received the benefit, including immunity from prosecution, in exchange for testimony, and whether the witness has ever changed his testimony. Further, notwithstanding any language in the immunity agreement, it is your exclusive role to determine the credibility of that witness. In other words, you and you alone are to determine whether any evidence offered by Pavel Gumieni is to be believed wholly, partly, or not at all, irrespective of any language in the immunity agreement that may indicate otherwise. And after the name Pavel Gumieni in this draft, please Just eliminate the word "it."